So it was a long, mystery. Why do I have a lemon of a body situation? And I tried everything and knew a ton. And it was kind of interesting because I ended up having to have this hysterectomy, which was really at the end of my career. And he got in there, and it turned out I had endometriosis, and the ovaries it was a mess. I've been healthy, doing all the right things my whole life. And after that, I found I could not function. And it turned out my endocrinologist said, "You look great. Your numbers look great. Let's go to the sleep lab." And it showed that I was waking up 29 times an hour. The brain could not settle down and stay asleep. And I was so exhausted, I had no idea that I wasn't sleeping. So I'm in this kind of daze thinking I'm sleeping and I'm not. So that became the holy grail. That explained why I couldn't think anymore, couldn't work out or do anything. And I was basically a literal couch potato. And in the process of trying to figure out that science, I discovered that my kiwi that I was using to help with the constipation, that was going to help with the dysbiosis and all this, that was going to help the brain so we wouldn't have endotoxemia and all this stuff. Turned out that the arthritis that I started getting at age 12 and was really extreme in my 20s when I was a vegetarian and vegan was related to the oxalates in the food. And I had now at this stage recognized which foods were high in oxalate because I learned through the Vulvar Pain Foundation. They've been teaching the low oxalate diet for pelvic issues, particularly women's genital pain, but also for men and connective tissue problems. And they've been teaching this low oxalate diet for that. And that was strange to me because those of us in the health field know that you use the low oxalate diet for kidney problems, particularly kidney stones, because most every kidney stone is made of this oxalate that's naturally in foods that we're eating, in plant foods. It's part of nature. And it's not something we spray on it. It's not because it's not organic. These plants naturally have chemicals that can be bad for us. And kidney stones is known problem with spinach and tea and these high oxalate foods. So why was she using this diet for pelvic pain? And connected, what is she talking about? And so I didn't quite get that, but I now could see when I was eating higher oxalate foods was bringing back my arthritis and stiffness and other kinds of pain. And I was like, man, you mean I got all these other problems and I have to go back and fix this arthritis on this dumb oxalate thing? And lo and behold, that's when just everything started getting better. I was sleeping again. Within 10 days of changing my diet, I could tell I was sleeping because I could read again. I had more energy. And my foot problems, which had been going on for 30 years of not being able to be barefoot, not being able to run, jump, and play much at all, were fine. I was able to go to a wedding and stand in high heels for 7 hours. That had never happened in my whole life. And at that point, I'm 49 or just had turned 50. And finally at 50, I can wear heels and run barefoot on the pavement. And now at 60, things are great.
It's like you're a kid again, right? Kids do those things and don't even think about it, right?
Yes.
So let's start with what are oxalates?
Yeah.
And
step one first. Yeah.
Like who's heard of it?
Oxalate is not something you hear down at the at the Kroger cash register every day.
But you might more often than you ever did, because people who are benefiting from it are literally looking at other people's shopping carts and going, "Do you have arthritis? Do you have back pain? Do you have headaches?" Like, because your cart looks like a pain mobile, and they'll tell you why. Because
pain mobile.
Yeah, this stuff is in the produce department, in the nuts, in the keto world, in the gluten-free world. Those foods have this oxalic acid, which is a tiny 2-carbon molecule with 4 oxygens on it. It's kind of like 2-carbon dioxide. It's a very little compound, and it's an ion. That means there's a charge on it, and it's dissolved in water. But it hooks up, that charge hooks up with minerals. So it tends to be in these mineral formats. And there's one where it breaks apart easily, like table salt does. And then there's some that don't break apart easily. And the calcium is the beloved partner of oxalate. So you get calcium oxalate forming these molecules that start binding together and forming little nanocrystals that grow into bigger crystals. We call them microcrystals that then congeal and become stones. And you have stones that can occur in the urinary tract because the body eliminates oxalic acid, through the urine and the kidneys. It doesn't detox it. in any way. The liver makes oxalate. So you eat it in your spinach smoothie and your keto bread and your nut butters and your beets and your sweet potatoes. It goes straight into your liver. The liver makes more oxalate as part of its thing, just a little bit. And then it starts circulating in your body, and your kidneys have to pick it up and pee it out. And in the process, you're causing potential problems with your digestion, your immune cells that are in your bloodstream, the red blood cells in your bloodstream, the linings of your vascular tissue, the kidneys, or excuse me, the liver, and then that blood travels into the heart, lungs, and the rest of the body. This stuff gets stuck in tissues that are regenerating or inflamed, or cells that are broken up. It gets stuck in areas where the cells aren't super in the right condition, and starts accumulating in the body.
So what are the 12 what are the 12 high oxalate foods? I mean,
Spinach,
spinach.
Swiss chard, beet greens, almonds, peanuts, cashews, sweet potatoes, baked potatoes, French fries, potato chips, quinoa, teff, buckwheat. What else? There's a couple fruits: kiwi, star fruit, blackberries, figs, chocolate. Sorry,
I know. Even our beloved turmeric has
turmeric,
oxalates,
black tea, green tea,
rhubarb.
rhubarb, which is something I grew up on, which is probably where this all started.
Yes. So well, let's back up a second though, because so we make some of it, but is it true that the vast majority of the oxalates that most of us consume are through the diet, right? Through plants.
Over half of the oxalate that a normal person pees out is coming straight from the plants you're eating: your potatoes, your peanuts, your chocolate. And most people have those foods by the time they're 1 year old. They've been giving peanut butter, chocolate cake for their first birthday. Beets is a first pureed food. Sweet potatoes is a pureed food. And nowadays, in the fancy baby food, they're putting quinoa and these more even crazier high oxalate foods. So we're eating them early and often.
And oxalates, though, they have a benefit for the plant, correct? Like against mineral accumulation or like pesticides,
Yeah, the
pests.
underfunded botanists have found at least 7 uses for oxalate in the plants, and so very much about defense. Plants put them in the seeds to store calcium. It's a brilliant way to manage calcium because calcium and oxalic acid love each other so well. And calcium is so critical to the function of all living cells, whether they're plant cells or human cells. And just like human beings, plants have to manage their calcium so there's enough and not too much. And so by being able to bind up the calcium, you keep it from being active physiologically for the plant, and you can also save it for later. And in a seed, saving calcium is very smart because it's a cofactor for enzymes that allow the seed to germinate. So when a seed starts germinating, it's sort of liquidating this calcium oxalate and liberating off that calcium to use it for germination. So that's
Okay.
many more purposes. I mean, plants are attacked by funguses and beetles and so on. And so a leaf of a plant can produce hydrogen peroxide from oxalate to fight funguses. The plants build crystals of deliberate shapes deliberately to be unedible by beetles and other munching animals, including us.